Fixing the Ethiopian Food Crisis by Katie Kirschner to the citizens of Ethiopia. Causes of your food insecurity. As you all know, a big cause of food insecurity is the erratic rainfall that Ethiopia has been receiving. It's either coming too little, too late, too much, too early, and this is causing the worst drought in 60 years. Which is leading to low crop yields, and there's also a lot of destruction by pest infestation, and there are increasing instances of HIV, AIDS, and malaria, which, the more people that are sick, the less they can work the fields, work the livestock, and all of this is contributing to higher costs of food in the nation. And there are also unfavorable coffee trade terms, which, is unfortunate because coffee is Ethiopia's #1 export. The history of agriculture. So, in Ethiopia, fertile soil used to be absolutely everywhere, and there were also large amounts of healthy livestock that would roam and graze. And Ethiopia is actually the native country of the coffee bean. Actually, half of the country was forest. And all of this, the crops, the livestock, the coffee, logging, it contributed to over half of the nation's gross domestic product. Now, present-day agriculture, there are a lot more problems. The soil is not as fertile because there's a lot of erosion. There's overgrazing by livestock. Deforestation is actually a huge issue. What was once 50% of the nation covered is only 5 now. Forests have actually been reduced by 45%. And all this has harmed the plateaus where a lot of the agriculture takes place. On the bright side, the reserve land is located in a good climatic part of the country, and Ethiopia is actually one of the healthiest or the wealthiest countries in Africa in terms of livestock. So, even though about half of the land has been made infertile by these practices, almost half of the land is still able to be used, and we do need to focus on that. Fixing Ethiopia. So, fighting the drought using water conservation techniques. A big thing we can do as far as agriculture goes is drip irrigation, and this is a type of irrigation. It drips water onto the plants from punctured pipes, which are laying really close to the ground, and it uses so much less water than pivot irrigation. And also water renewal. If we can implement sewage treatment plants, they can extract water from waste products, and we can reuse that. And purification systems kind of go along with sewage treatment because they purify that water to provide clean water for drinking and food preparation. And all this reduces the risk of disease from water. Fighting the drought, low crop yields, and pest infestation using genetically modified crops. Now, GMOs, or genetically modified organisms, are organisms such as plants and animals that have been genetically engineered to have certain traits. So in this case, a lot of what Ethiopia can be using is genetically modified crops. And now these are going to look, smell, and taste just like your regular crops, but they can be resistant to viruses, insects, drought, a whole bunch of things. And they can also produce crops with longer growing seasons, which, would sort of combat the erratic rainfalls and the drought. And actually, because especially the resistant to insect crops, it reduces the cost of production because it decreases pesticide usage. And this increases crop yield and the net profit by being more resilient than regular plants. And it is proven to be both safe for both humans and animal consumption. Fighting food safety issues using the 5 keys to food hygiene. Now, the 5 keys to food hygiene are just here to help you prepare your food so as not to get food poisoning or diseases from it. So the first thing you want to do is you want to wash your hands and clean your cooking surfaces and utensils before preparing your food. And you also want to cook your food to the correct temperature to ensure that no bacteria living on the food gives you food poisoning. And when storing your foods, you should always separate the raw foods from the cooked and the fresh foods, especially things like raw meat, and store your food at the correct temperature, which is sometimes hard to do, but also use safe and clean water for cooking. And if you boil your water before consuming it, it can help to kill the bacteria in the water, and that will prevent illness. Fighting food insecurity using organic farming techniques. Now, organic farming, I just want to say a little bit about that. Organic farming is just a way of agriculture that reduces negative impacts on the environment. So certain techniques, one of these is crop rotation, and that's where different types of crops are rotated each year so they do not deplete the soil of its nutrients. And the soil that has been depleted is sort of put back into the soil, or the nutrients that have been depleted are put back into the soil using compost that is applied to the top. And this helps keep the soil fertile. Also, reducing the amount of tilling is another technique that can be used. When you reduce the amount of tilling, you reduce the carbon that is lost to the atmosphere, and that leaves more for the plants, as well as it can help reduce greenhouse gases, which can actually help reverse climate change. And not using pesticides is another technique. And this isn't going to be a problem if, when combined with pest-resistant GMO crops, not using pesticide actually ensures that you don't ingest residual pesticides left on the crops when you consume the food. Fixing the Ethiopia food crisis. So, to fix this food crisis, really we need to combine all these techniques, and by doing that, we can help get Ethiopia back on its feet. Using organic farming techniques combined with GMOs, you can produce better crops with higher yields. The organic techniques can help reverse the negative effects on the environment and atmosphere, and actually help to undo climate change. These foods are safe to eat for both humans and animals, and not only will this help reverse the nation's hunger, it can also provide food for the livestock. And this can help reduce the effects of livestock overgrazing. With higher yields, more food can be produced, which will increase food distribution. Properly purifying water and using correct food hygiene skills will deliver food that is safe to consume, which reduces food-caused diseases. All of these techniques can help turn around the state of the nation and help give Ethiopia and its people a fresh start.